And you're live.
Welcome to Game Night Live. We've switched locations. We're back at the Times News this week, but again, we have two very special guests. On my right is Lehighton head coach Tom McCarroll. On my left is Tamaqua head coach Sam Bonner. These guys are with us. They have a big game this week. Tamaqua visits Lehighton in a really big Schuylkill League game, but Tom, I mean, just for yourself, can you just kind of talk about, how the season has been so far for you guys? Had a big win last week against North Schuylkill, but just thoughts so far, how the season's been.
Yeah, we're excited where we are. I think we got a lot of momentum going into a big game. Last week was a big win for us, and not only beating a good North Schuylkill team, but also beating them the way we did. Really haven't been challenged for 4 quarters up to that point. We knew that it's going to be kind of a lot of firsts for us, and we really kind of want to see where our kids were, and I think they responded. North Schuylkill came out, kind of punched us in the mouth a little bit, went down the field and scored, and our kids were able to respond. We held a small halftime lead, but then came out in the second half, I think, ready to go. They answered the bell a little bit, and we need that going into this stretch, and Coach will certainly agree to that. Division I in the Schuylkill League is no joke this year, and that's what you want as a coach. You want to challenge your kids to see how they respond, because when we get into districts, we're going to be playing teams that are good in their conferences, and I think AAA in District 11 is going to be loaded up this year.
Yeah. And Coach, for you, you guys kind of got into that, sort of that bulk, the thick of your schedule last week against Pottsville. First loss of the season, but played tough. Kids played tough. Just thoughts on where you are as we kind of really head into this second half, this, like Coach McCarroll said, this critical stretch of the season. Just thoughts for you.
Like Coach said, very pleased with our first half of the season. Starting out 5-0, and it's a great thing. We beat a Blue Mountain team that we haven't been very competitive against or haven't beaten for the last couple of years. So we were obviously pleased with that one. Last week, obviously a little different. Went up. I thought we kind of underperformed against a good Pottsville team. I mentioned to the team, I think that we're a better team than what we showed last week. I think we kind of got caught off guard a little bit, and that's not taking away anything from Pottsville. We're watching Pottsville on film. They lost to a Harrisburg team who's number 1 in the state at 5A. They lost to a Wyomissing team who's I think number 4 in the state at 3A. So we knew they were a good quality team. And you get 5-0, you get a little high. We're doing great, and we're kind of grounded right now. We know we got to get better.
And Coach, for you, thinking about that North Schuylkill game, North Schuylkill had played a lot of really close, tough games prior to seeing you guys against Mount Carmel, Haven, Steelton, things like that. Thoughts just to kind of get, like you said, where they kind of punched you in the mouth and they really tested you guys, but just thoughts to kind of get that kind of test, I guess, against North Schuylkill on the road, and to really kind of see what the kids would do, I guess, facing adversity.
Well, I think a lot of people, outside of the program kind of questioned that, whether or not we were ready to get into that kind of game, because we haven't seen it. I will say that the week before, Panther Valley going down the field, scoring on us, I think that can give us a little bit of an eye-opener, a wake-up call, so to speak, and our kids responded well there. Back in week 2, we did have a nice little matchup with Schuylkill Haven, and I know we kind of scored late there, but that was also a nice test for us. So we knew that North Schuylkill was battle-tested. Like you said, played a Steelton High Spire team who was ranked in the state in single A, still very good athletes, and then the previous 2 weeks, prior to that, 1-point wins. Anytime you can get out of a game like that with a win, your kids have battled, certainly that you have faith in your kids.
Yeah.
We didn't have that up to that point, so last week was critical in seeing how our kids responded, because North Schuylkill was too good to kind of get in there and get after them, and they're not going to lay over no matter what. And we saw that. We got 2 scores, but we knew that at some point they're going to make some kind of run, and our kids were able to, a little bend, don't break defense, but they responded when they needed to.
And Coach, for you, obviously it's been sort of, each week kind of almost like a pick your poison offensively with playmakers, with, Thad, and obviously with, with Braden and with Nate and with Nick. Just thoughts on, like what those guys have kind of meant for your offense and for your team so far this season, and kind of the roles that they played for you guys.
Well, I think it's great that we can spread the ball around, and I think we're showing that we, pass the ball effectively as well as run the ball effectively. And the more times you can spread the ball around and put it in different people's hands, I think the better chance they have of succeeding. That being said, obviously, Nick, he's close to 1,000 yards right now. He's our workhorse. Nate, he kind of, he jumps in there, he makes plays on both sides of the ball. Both quarterbacks have been doing a good job for us. And I go back to it, and everyone says, it's tough playing 2 quarterbacks, but at the same time, I think both guys a lot of times I don't even know who's in the game. Both guys that have confidence in that they can make the plays when they have to make the plays, and they've been doing a great job for us so far.
And for you, Coach, too, I mean, thinking about, your quarterback, Cody, I mean, senior, obviously this is his second year as a starter, but just, kind of thinking about what he's meant, kind of coming back and sort of taking the reins there, and then obviously with Chambers and, with the guys that you have outside, but just thoughts on kind of what he's meant as far, on both sides of the ball, I guess, defensively and offensively as a leader for you guys.
Yeah, I think, Cody's been a great leader for us. He's a great performer, great athlete in this area, and does play, on both sides of the ball, and our special teams is pretty crucial as well, which is kind of unique. And like Coach was saying, I think the neat thing about this matchup, I'm sure you guys will get to it later, but I think you got so many playmakers in so many different spots on both sides of the ball. And some of the guys on offense are also your playmakers on defense. Like you said about Cody, I mean, he's kind of the heart and soul of our team. On offense, he certainly makes our offense go. But on defense, you see him making big plays every single week. Even last week, a couple times we had to move him out to the corner to play a very good Grigas receiver in Grigas, and he was able to do that job, perfectly. And it's just nice when you have, kids like that come back year after year who have been battle tested, like Coach alluded to his kids. And, we have, I think, a very similar makeup, maybe different styles, but I think we have similar makeup in terms of what kind of kids are leading our teams and that we're relying on. I think it's going to make for a great matchup on Friday.
I was just going to say, I know that you guys will probably be the first ones to say you wouldn't be as successful as you are at this point if it wasn't for your play in the trenches. And, every time I talk to you guys are giving big kudos to the guys, in the trenches. And Coach Bonner, you say a lot of the same names to me. Jared Reed, I got to see some of these guys play, and Matt Amadea, and kids like that seem to always be in the backfield when they're on defense, causing some chaos. And on offense, are you satisfied with the line play so far this year?
Yeah, definitely. I thought that going into it, this is the first year we actually had a couple linemen back. Bronson Strauss, Matt Amadea, both offensive tackles for us, both big, strong kids. One's only a sophomore, one's a junior. But, both have been, like Coach said, kind of battle tested. Even though they're young, Bronson as a freshman started 11 games for us last year. And Matty, that was his first year starting for us too. So they have some experience underneath their belt. Inside we're a little younger. We got Sean Levine started at center for us as a sophomore. We had a rotation. We had a fullback and John Burns. We ended up moving him to a guard position. He's doing a good job for us for his first year playing up front. And then Jared Reed, another sophomore, was playing for us up front. Those guys are progressing. I think this past week they found out that they're not quite where, I shouldn't say we expect them to be, but they're not quite as far along as they think they are. They got to get better. And that being said, they've been doing a great job for us. But, you get a little bit more physical team. You got to start realizing you got to start working on technique a little bit more, and that's something that we've been working on a lot this week.
And Coach McCarroll, for you, right before the season, unfortunately, Citro, you lost Citro, senior lineman, and A, I was wondering if you had any update on him, and hopefully he has a speedy recovery, and B, I guess you knew you'd have to have some other kids really step it up, and how do you think this offensive line is gelling without him in there?
Well, first of all, David did actually have his ACL repaired on Wednesday, his surgery, so speedy recovery, David, and he'll do a great job. He's a hard-working kid, no matter what he does. Blue-collar kid, and it's why it's going to be. It's been hard to replace him. That being said, we did have our entire line coming back. He was one of them, but we also had our top two reserves coming back. So we had a little bit of depth. We really were able to hang our hat on our offensive and defensive lines, and I think we've been able to do that. And I think really that's been the difference for our success this year versus the way we kind of struggled a little bit last year. We had all those kids. I think we only had one returning starter on the line last year, whereas now we had all five. And Coach will tell you that's a rarity. That's a rarity at this level when you have such small schools. To have no turnover in your personnel, especially in the offensive line, where you just need continuity. You need to be able to gel, and it's been a nice foundation for us. And my hat goes off to Luke Becker and Sean Truey, are the two guys that have filled in for Citro on the offensive side of the ball. They've done a nice job.
How big is that, though? Just, when, like you said about a small school, and you see it, too, with bigger schools as well. I just think about, maybe Pleasant Valley coming into this year, had a big season last year, but lost a lot of its guys from the offense, and then, everything kind of changes, and it sort of is that everything sort of gets turned upside down in some ways. But for you as a coach and just for your staff, when you see that, what does it do in terms of implementing game plans and, kind of being able to do things like that where, like you said, you have that sort of continuity so you can just kind of build on, I guess. what was already in place?
I think it's crucial. I think Coach will agree with this. Anybody in this area, at schools that are our size and even especially smaller, the more you can get kids meaningful playing time, and that's why, like in the first couple of weeks, I know, I'm sure a lot of schools are similar. When we can get a bigger lead and you can get those younger kids minutes, even against the first team, that's okay if they take their lumps and take their shots a little bit, and we're willing to accept, hey, maybe we give up a shutout because we put our 2s in against their 1s or our 3s, and that's okay with us because we know that hopefully that's going to help them develop down the line, because there's no substitute for game speed, game situations, and I think it lends itself to a situation like we're at now, where maybe some kids who weren't starters last year, but they're ready to go when it's their turn and when they're called upon. So.
For Coach Bonner, I know we talked before this season, and you said depth would be a key for you, and develop. Obviously, want to develop that depth every year. You have a lot of versatile guys, but you really kind of needed to build behind that. And it's not a secret. You got to get those kids developed. And so far this season, have you been able to? What do you see out of the depth on your team with the young kids?
We got a couple young offensive linemen that are first-year guys. They're bigger, stronger guys, and sometimes the weight room doesn't always directly transfer over to the field. So we knew, they worked hard in the off-season. Guys like Jin Choi, Carl Valentine, guard and tackle for us. We've been able to rotate those guys in, especially in some of the early games, like you say, where we had a big lead, and that's always big for those guys. There are 2 guys that we have rotated in, varsity-wise, as well as playing JVs for us on a Monday night. I feel like Coach said, even JV games, nothing, beats game experience. So, it's kind of like you look great at practice. How do you look once, it's game time? You're going to make those little mistakes and jumping offside, stepping with your wrong foot. So it's important that I think these guys get game time. And, those guys are starting to come along. There are 2 other young guys that, like Coach said, it would be nice to have 4 or 5 guys back on an offensive line down the road. But, they're developing fast. And we don't have a lot of depth, so they don't have much of a choice. They got to, make sure that they pick it up, as well as some of our freshmen. Lucas Shikram is coming around. He's playing some defensive end for us as a freshman. So guys like that we look to, bring along a little faster than sometimes you would at a bigger school. You get a little bit more time than probably expected when they came in as freshmen and when they came in as first-year players and sophomores.
And Coach McCarroll, to kind of think about, like you had mentioned with Tamaqua and playmakers and, both sides of the ball, but to think about Tamaqua, which maybe runs that sort of, a 2-quarterback scheme where, it could be Braden Knobloch, it could be Thad Zuber, and then they have also Boyle and Breyer in the backfield. For you, as a staff too, what kind of challenges does that present when you see that in front of you series to series, I guess?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, our defensive coaches are spending a little bit more time this week than maybe they have in the past because of that. And that's what a great, I think, luxury to kind of have, because again, you don't see that on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah.
And again, Coach will agree with that, I'm sure. It's like sometimes we're struggling to find playmakers, and then every once in a while you have those years where we got a bunch of them. And he has them. I like a lot. I tell you what, my hat goes off to Coach, because when Brady's not playing quarterback, you see him at receiver. When Dad's not playing quarterback, you see him at receiver, because they're just good athletes. They're good competitors, and you want to put them on the field as much as possible. We have Cody Shear, who's our quarterback now. He's a sophomore. He played receiver for us because he was too good of an athlete not to put on the field. Yeah. So, when you have that, and you can find a way to really spread the ball around, like Coach said. At the end of the day, everybody knows Tamaqua likes to pound the ball, and they do it well. And the fact that they can add that dimension a little bit more, so it makes them super dangerous. And we're well aware of that this year.
We kind of combined our Times News game night with our Times News sports chat this week. I'm Justin and Pat. We're joined by Tamaqua head coach Sam Bonner and Lehighton head coach Tom McCarroll. Tamaqua and Lehighton, there's no secret they're playing this Friday. So that's going to be an exciting game in our area, and we're just kind of picking their brains a little bit right now. Pat, what do you got?
Coach, obviously, you kind of think about, like Tom said, about playmakers. Lehighton has plenty of its own, and quarterback Cody Shear that can run, that can throw, Chambers in the backfield, Crum and all these other guys. When you look at that, what jumps out, I guess, when you see
pretty much everything?
Yeah,
and Cody, like Coach mentioned, he does everything. He's one of those kids. He's been around for a little while. He's been playing, since he's young. Both sides of the ball. You always respect the kid. We're small schools, so athletes like Cody have to be on the field all the time. And I'm sure he's one of those kids like we have, like Nate Boyle, that he just doesn't want to come off the field. Yeah. So it's impressive to see the guy be as active as he is, special teams, defense, And, obviously everyone gets the word out on offense. He's a kid that could hurt you with his legs, he hurt you with his arm. He made some big plays last year against us. He's a big play kid. Whether he's throwing it 50 yards downfield or he's taking off for 50 yards, he's a kid you always got to account for. And that being said, they have a few of those other guys, like Coach was saying, they spread it around. Chambers, obviously, he's a big play guy, probably averaging, 9-10 yards a carry. He's a guy you got to wrap up on. Something that we emphasize. And this should be every week, not just this week, but you got to fight the ball because he has guys that aren't going to go down with one shot. They're tough, hard-nosed kids. They're going to spin, they're going to twist. They're not going to stop playing until that whistle's blown, and we know that. So I said, we're going to have a work cut out for us with those guys.
Coach McCarroll, tell us a little bit about your first year player with the program, Taquan Bradley Chambers, is it?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about him. I mean, on paper, I haven't had a chance to personally see him. Like Coach Bonner said, averaging 7, 8, 9 yards a pop. But talk about him as a runner a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's probably as well-rounded a runner as you'll see in this area. Just the fact that he has his ability to change direction very quickly, but he also, when he gets in a pinch, he'll lower his shoulder and try to bring the boom a little bit. And he always talks in practice. He likes to I guess model himself after Marshawn Lynch is his guy. So that's good. I like how when kids kind of try to emulate the college players, the pro players. And the best thing about him, actually, to be honest with you, is he has a really good work ethic. He has a really good attitude. He's very coachable. And he's been a really, nice surprise to a lot of people in this area, especially us.
And thinking about surprise, maybe just whether it's him, but just for you guys, for this group, maybe from preseason week 1 to where we are now, where is this team? Is this team where you thought it would be heading into this stretch of the season, the way you're playing?
Yeah, I would say we're where we hope we would be.
Yeah.
We are where we thought we could be.
Yeah.
But coming off a season like we did last year, we really struggled a little more than we anticipated last year. And so you never know how kids respond to that, when they have that kind of a down year for us. But I will say this, the offseason was huge for us. And I know that's kind of cliche, but it really was. The kids kind of looked back at last year and said, it's really not good enough. It's really not acceptable. I know we made playoffs, but at the end of the day, a sub-500 record is not okay, and any coach will tell you that. So the kids really made that commitment in the offseason. And I said to them, listen, we have enough talent on this team to really compete for a division title, but it's really a choice that they had to make. There's no X's and O's that's going to change anything. There's no rah-rah speeches that we need to give them. It was a matter of them making a choice to change, what they needed to change in the offseason. And I think they did that in the show and obviously, performances.
And for you, Coach Bonner, we knew you had all the playmakers and a lot of potential. And how do you think it's all gelling right now?
Yeah, very pleased. You're coming off, sometimes you come off a down week, all of a sudden it's doom and gloom, but, going into that game, I thought everything was going pretty smooth. Offensively, I feel like, we're pretty competitive. We spread the ball around. We have a lot of different things that we can do. Defensively, we got to shore up some stuff. So we have a lot of guys playing both ways. And, like my dad says, he goes, hey, this area, that's what kids do. It's not an excuse not to, to take a play off on defense. We've been kind of emphasizing that all week this week that, we got to get a little bit more aggressive, make sure, we attack and we don't sit on our heels as much. But, we're 5-1 right now. Obviously, we beat a good Schuylkill Haven team, a Blue Mountain team that, we haven't, like you mentioned that we haven't beaten in a while. We got to bounce back. It's got to be a bounce back week. And, the unfortunate thing is we're playing, a great Lehighton team. So, it's not an easy thing. But I said, it's something we got to work for. And nothing's going to be easy. From here on out, and we knew this going into it, and like Coach would say, I'm sure he'll say, that, Division I in our league, there's not a week where you sit back and just be like, all right, maybe we don't have to push as much this week. Each week's going to just be, more and more competitive, and, and we just hope we stay healthy and that we stay competitive.
Yeah, this second half of the schedule, and that's the beautiful thing about the Schuylkill Football League. Every week, there's no gimmies, never a gimme. Every team is quality in one way or another, and there's a lot of hype and anticipation, and we got 2 great programs going at it on Friday. And just talk about this rivalry a little bit. I know maybe, Tamaqua has Marion and PV, and Jim Thorpe Lehighton is huge, but this is kind of gaining some steam, at least in my 5 years here. And this is kind of truly the battle of 443 guys, and a lot of hype, anticipation, a lot of implications behind this one. Tell me a little bit about this, Coach McCarroll. What are you thinking?
I love it. I'll be honest with you. You know, people obviously think, you know, Lehighton and Jim Thorpe, but you go right down the road here, and there's Tamaqua School District. So we are neighboring districts, and you know, I'm from Tamaqua, and there's, you know, I know a lot of people up there, and you know, it adds a little bit to it, and so I take it very, very seriously. And you know, I take pride in this area. I take pride in Coal Region football. I think Tamaqua represents that as well as anybody. And I think, you know, for us being in the Mountain Valley originally coming in here, I think, you know, our message was we've got to prove that we belong. We've got to prove that our kids can play Coal Region football, and that's a brand of tough, hard-nosed kids. I think we're getting there. I think there's still a lot to learn and a little ways to go for us to get there on a very regular basis. But you know, I think what Division I offers this year alone, I'll stack it up against, you know, the Colonial League is always, you know, trying to say that we're a little second fiddle and when it comes to, you know, these smaller school leagues. But I'll tell you right now, this year I'll put our Division I up against anybody in the school in the Colonial League, no matter what.
Absolutely, Coach. And I mean, you see that, you know, you look at another matchup this week where you have like a North Schuylkill traveling to Jim Thorpe. There's again, you know, a North Schuylkill team, first loss last week, Jim Thorpe still undefeated. But when you see those types of schools, like you said on the schedule, what is your mindset when you kind of go week to week and you just kind of, you know, sort of just take I guess you never can look ahead, can it?
Well, no, not at all. And I agree with Coach. I think that you look at the league this year, that it's as competitive. I'm doing this now 11 years at Tamaqua. I think we're as competitive this year as we've ever been. And you know, I match up, you know, the top tier teams in our league against any top tier teams in, you know, local leagues.
Sure.
I don't, you know, no doubt. You know, and you know, I think we started showing that a little bit last year. You know, you had a Pottsville team who played soccer, who was probably the best team in the Colonial League last year. And I think it came down to a field goal or, you know, a couple points at the end. And you know, I think, you know, like you said, our league's gotten very competitive. It's gotten to the point where it's, like I mentioned, like, you know, every week's kind of a rival. You know, Lehighton, like I said, you know, it's great to have them back on the schedule just because of that fact that, you know, I think it's an exciting week. You know, it's, you know, like Lehighton against Jim Thorpe, like you mentioned, us against Marion, you know, us against Panther Valley, Lehighton against Panther Valley. You know, every week it's kind of like you have kids in a small area that know one another. Yeah. You know, I know Nick Bryner would say, "Oh, Coach Shear's a great kid." You know, I hear him in the weight room. You know, he's a great athlete, great kid. They know one another, and that's fun. You know, it's great to be competitive, but it's good when the kids know one another, and you know they respect one another, and that's a big thing. And you know, I think it's a little bit more fun when you have a little bit more pride at stake when you're competing against someone that you know.
Absolutely, and you know, they kind of pay attention to what each other is doing, and you know, obviously, if you know, maybe like last week, if Justin St. Hill for Jim Thorpe, you know, goes for over 300 yards rushing, has a big game, you know that there are kids that are just kind of maybe peeking to see what he's doing, and things like that. And you know, obviously this week, you know, Jim Thorpe gets North Schuylkill, which will be trying to bounce back, but that Jim Thorpe defense still allowed just 7 points this year. I mean, schedule aside, 7 points. They shut out Blue Mountain last week. And really, you know, feels like that's something we kind of talk about every week. Right. But that Jim Thorpe defense, again, just another week, another shutout.
Yeah, maybe we can jump around the rest of the league a little bit now, take an opportunity, you know, to get your opinions instead of people just having to listen to us all week. But yeah, I had a chance to see Jim Thorpe last weekend. I tell you what, their front four on defense, they're some big boys, and they really impressed me in the trenches. And that's definitely a big reason, I think, why they are, you know, where they are right now. And you know, Coach Rosenberg has been doing this a while too. And when you got a kid back there like Justin St. Hill, and you throw in Nick Selby, who's kind of the lightning to that thunder, you know, and they're a tough tandem too. And a lot of good backs in this league. So you know, Jim Thorpe, you know, big quality win over Blue Mountain on the road, and you know, kind of, you know, making a statement. And you know, they didn't give up any points last week, and Justin St. Hill looked good, and now they take on North Schuylkill. And you know, Coach McCarroll, you know, what are your thoughts on the battle between those teams?
It's a toss-up. In my opinion, it's a toss-up, and you know, a ton of respect, you know, goes to North Schuylkill, who we just played and gave us, you know, their best shot, you know, kind of everything we can handle. You know, saw them on film. Obviously, they've been battle tested, but you know, also have. I mean, there's something to be said when you go 5 straight weeks with a shutout.
Yeah.
That's hard to ignore. And so, no matter who your competition is, you know that you're going to have a defense to contend with. And I'm really curious to see this matchup. To be quite honest with you, you know, because I think it's gonna set itself up, because the St. Hill kid is a pretty special runner, and to see North Schuylkill has a pretty good defense as well. I know we had a little bit of success against them, but I know we don't have anybody like St. Hill in our backfield, so it'll be interesting to see how they match up.
Yeah, and I mean, we've kind of seen it through the first half or so of the season and maybe that was kind of like Justin St. Hill's big breakout week against Blue Mountain. I mean, to go for over 300 yards, he had about 425 coming in. So, you do that against, again, a really quality opponent in Blue Mountain. It's certainly something to be said for that. So.
And Coach Bonner, that's obviously another huge game in Division I, North Schuylkill and Jim Thorpe. And that's a North Schuylkill team had the crazy rally to beat Steel High a couple weeks ago, and then they play the Tornadoes tough, get another one. And talk about that game.
They had a tight game against Schuylkill Haven. They had a tight game against Mount Carmel. They had a tight game early against Steel. And you got to say something. Coach Wally Hall does a great job up at North Schuylkill, and to win those close games, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And chances are when you're in close games like that, if you win 2 out of 3, it's a good thing. They won 3 real tight games that they, a couple times came back and won. So I'd say something about the coaches. You mentioned Jim Thorpe and North Schuylkill. That should be a great game. Coach Rosenberger, he's always done a great job. We used to open up with him. He's tough to tough to open up with a little later in the year, but opening up with him, he's always prepped. He's always going to be ready. He mentioned after arguing with Coach a little bit, he said he doesn't have a guy like St. Hill in his backfield. I think he has 2 guys that are pretty good in his backfield. There's not 3, but he said, he's a different kind of kid, different kind of runner than most kids. So he said obviously going down the road, very interesting game. It should be. And I think this whole second half of the season is going to be interesting with matchups. It's like that first half, you got a little feel for it, but not as much. Teams like Pottsville who didn't really play any local teams, teams like Blue Mountain who didn't really play any local teams. Yeah. So it's tough to get a feel for them. But I think in the next week or 2, you're going to start seeing, what's going on a little bit more.
And I think we have a couple of matches. I think we have Blue Mountain and Pottsville this week. We have, obviously Haven and Minersville. And then in our area, you have Monomoy against Marion, which, picked up a big win against Panther Valley, which this week hosts Shenandoah Valley. So, and you think maybe about Panther Valley and Shenandoah, that's a game that probably has a lot of district implications, to kind of think about where those teams are in terms of the classification. So, that could be huge for Panther Valley Panther Valley was leading Marion last week, and then Marion exploded in that 4th quarter to pull away. But, obviously to get a Shenandoah team this week, that would be huge for Scott Price and that program if they can, if they can pick off a win. So
yeah, I know you guys had a look at Panther Valley, and a lot of first-year head coaches we just named there. Shenandoah with Kevin Keating and Scott Price at Panther Valley, and Pat Morgan's at Marion. And like you said, that game has a lot riding on it, and those teams battle it out every time they play each other. Speaking of the Division II, how about Shenandoah and Minersville playing each other twice? What do you guys think about that? I thought we had a typo last week when I saw that. I was like, so the first one was a non-league game, and then last week was a league game. And we had some people say to us, we had someone comment a couple weeks ago about, well, what about all these big schools beating up on all these small schools? Well, that's a different story. But if you look at the long run, it's pretty balanced in the Schuylkill League. 9 times out of 10, Schuylkill Haven's giving you guys a dogfight. Marion's giving you a dogfight. Panther Valley and Tamaqua have had some backyard brawls over the years, and same with Marion. And just looking at the Shenandoah and Panther Valley game, a lot riding on it. What do you think, Coach?
Yeah, definitely. I disagree with you. He said first-year head coach Kevin Keating might be a 31st year. He's been around. He's a great coach, great guy. I'm sure he's working his tail off up at Shenandoah to try and pull that program around, which obviously has been a little bit hurting for the last couple of years. But if anybody can do it, I'm sure it's Coach Keating. But yeah, it's very interesting. He's in Panther Valley. Has a chance to pick up 3 wins. I've worked with some of their kids, in the weight room and stuff. The Kennedy boys and stuff. And, I think that a chance to maybe win the next couple games for a program like PD could be huge. Yeah. Pat Morgan's a great guy, another guy I know very well. I know they had a big senior class last year. They lost 18 seniors last year. It's always tough to bounce back when you lose a class like that. And Pat's going to stay in there. He's going to work hard. He's a guy that's been around. He coached at Jim Thorpe. He's been up at Marion for a while, and he's a guy that I'm sure is looking to improve as the year goes on. So it's interesting with some of those smaller schools that the Division II area. Obviously I think Schuylkill Havens kind of stands out as the team to beat. Monterey, they're competitive, really good quarterback. But after Schuylkill Haven, I think it's kind of a toss-up who could end up being like number 2, and like you mentioned, who's going to progress and move on to districts.
And Coach McCarroll, I mean, just to think about, the Marion, Panther Valley, I mean, even, Haven obviously as well, but, for some of those schools that you've already seen this year, what stands out or what jumps out? I mean, when you kind of think about, what those teams bring to the table. I know Marion's had some injuries, different quarterback play now, but just to kind of think about maybe what those teams bring to the table against you.
Well, I think last week for me, it was kind of interesting to see how the Marion PV would play out.
Yeah.
Because we played them, I think, the previous weeks leading in, so we got a chance to see both of them firsthand, and I thought they really had some really nice pieces that if they can kind of stay together as a group, as a group of players, especially Panther Valley. Panther Valley has some really nice athletes.
I agree. I think they have some real good athletes.
They really do it, and I think it's almost as one of those deals where the winning and the losing can kind of be contagious either way, and almost maybe a couple losses for Panther Valley after a good start, maybe was kind of getting to them. If they can, I think, stay together as a team, I thought they had the talent to beat a Shenandoah, maybe a Minersville, and maybe really be knocking on the door for AA playoffs. Because if you look at that classification in District 11, there's only 6 teams. And really, there's a couple teams that I don't know have a win at the bottom end.
Yeah.
So crazy as it sounds sometimes is, Panther Valley, like I said, a couple wins could put them right on the door with a playoff game. And that kind of experience for kids and for programs, can really be a nice catapult. Marion's the same way. Marion, like I said, I thought whichever team came out of that with a win really can kind of set themselves up with momentum moving forward. Again, Marion's playing some of those same teams. A Minersville, a Shenandoah, Monty area, who I think is a really solid team.
Yeah.
I think they can kind of fly under the radar a little bit. I think they can make some noise in AA. To be quite honest with you, I know Haven is the favorite, but when it comes to districts, they run an offense that's tough to defend, and you never know. So they have a very good quarterback, which I've read a lot about. So they can be a dangerous team as well. So I thought the Division II teams, again, you know how this game goes. It's all about swings, momentums, ups and downs, and I thought last week was maybe a telltale sign of how the future might go for a couple teams.
Yeah.
I thought momentum's funny. Everybody knows what it is, but it's hard to actually put your finger on where is it, when does it come, when does it go. And Coach Bonner, you look at last year with the Raiders, you had a big win over Marion towards the end of the year. You got into the district playoffs, didn't have the outcome the Raiders wanted against a good Penn Argyl team last year. But that experience and getting that feet wet, and although from that last game against Penn Argyl until you opened up camp, it's a couple of months, but does momentum like that, can that carry over from the end of one season to the beginning of the next?
Yeah, definitely. I thought, like you mentioned, we played a very good Marion team at the end of the year. I thought it was probably one of the better games that we played. And then we went into a Penn Argyl game, went up and played on Saturday. I was a coach at Northern Lehigh. Penn Argyl is always a very tough place to play, especially on a Saturday. And I thought we were very competitive in the game. I'm not sure, I think it ended up 31-21 or something like that with the final score. But I thought our kids played very well. Especially against a team that ended up playing, I think, for a district championship, lost to Notre Dame and Green Pond. But, like Coach mentioned, sometimes, fortunate thing, I won't say a fortunate thing. There were years past when we were 7-3. I thought we had a very good team about 3-4 years ago. We're 7-3. We don't make Eastern Conference playoffs. In a way, the playoff system, in a way, it's great to make the playoffs with 5-5, and be able to get in there and get that experience. Sometimes I feel teams now get into the playoffs at 1-9, 0-10. Sometimes, should those teams be in the playoffs? No, I always feel, you're competitive 4 and 6, you're competitive 5-5 with a tough schedule. Sometimes it's going to help you. It's going to make you improve. Give you a little confidence going into the next year. But like Coach mentioned, it's great to be into, a district playoff. Get that game experience, get some of those young guys some time, give them a feel for what it's like to make it there. And, give them a little taste in their mouth and say, all right, now, maybe next year's the year that we, win a district game and move on. So obviously that's all great experiences for the young guys.
And you think about even like for us, we had Marion and Palmerton play for district championships last year, and both were 5-5 during the regular season. So, and obviously that 6th class, kind of breakdown in districts, like you said, it kind of, I guess, lends itself to having more teams get in, and I guess you can look at it too, like, hey, once you get in, anything can happen. Whether it's whether you're a top seed or whether you're a team that was 5-5 or 4-6 or something like that. So, and thinking about Penn Argyl, and obviously I saw Northern Lehigh play Penn Argyl last week. Northern Lehigh gets Saucon this week, which again, seems to be kind of, picking up right where it left off. Big win last week against Northwestern, 49-21, jumped out to an early lead. This is a big game for Northern Lehigh, but last week ran for almost 400 yards against Penn Argyl. Penalties, turnovers, kind of played a role there, especially at the end. But just thoughts on Northern Lehigh still looking to pick up its first win of the season, I guess.
Yeah, there's a team that put up 20 points in 4 of their 6 games this week, and they don't have a win to show for it, which, if you don't look at the numbers, you think they definitely probably have a win. But, there's a team that's disciplined, has a great staff with head coach Joe Tout and assistant coach Matt Davis and everybody there involved. So, they're not going to quit. We know what the Northern Lehigh program is. And just looking at some of these other, I know you guys brought up the Colonial League, and, I don't know, I guess I'll ask, what do you guys consider as maybe a surprise in the district? Because Palmerton's kind of turning some heads and had a big win over Saucon earlier this year. And
big game this week against Palisades.
Yeah, and
yeah.
Are they even, what county are they playing? Are they
Bucks County?
Far.
It's Upper Bucks County.
They're far away.
Get Palisades.
Yeah.
We used to play them Saturday nights. I was at Northern. I'm not a big Saturday night games guy. That makes for a real fast weekend. As Coach Tack, we used to scout on Friday night. Sometimes if Penn Argyl was playing, Saturday afternoon, we'd scout them, and then we'd go to a game on Saturday night. So it made for a busy, long weekend.
But it could be maybe a long trip for Palmerton playing at Palisades. But just for you guys, when you see other teams like that where a Palmerton knocks off, Saucon 29-28. Lost to Southern Lehigh earlier this year, it was 40-something, it was a shutout, but, you look at maybe the score of that game versus the way Southern Lehigh played at Northern Lehigh, and then Palmerton bounces back and knocks off, Saucon Valley. What have you seen from Palmerton? Gatus this year has been huge. He's had a lot of big games. He's had several big games, and they lost a lot of players from last year with Pershey and Stasko and Mooney and Isles, and the list goes on, but they've managed to really kind of pick up, and it seems like these kids have really kind of found their rhythm, I guess, this year.
Yeah, it seems like Palmerton is kind of establishing himself as a consistent program, which is kind of nice. And obviously we don't play them, but you follow teams in the area and you certainly hope for the best, especially when you're not playing them. And to beat a team like Saucon, who's a perennial power in the Colonial League, has got to be a nice feather in their cap. And so, when they have that kind of, you got to give the kids confidence. Talk about kids getting new opportunities. He lost a ton of playmakers last year, so it was certainly going to be a tough task for them to replace those kids. And everything I kind of read and heard early in the season, their numbers were kind of down.
Yeah.
So, I guess, kudos to Coach Walkowiak at Palmerton. Seems to be doing a nice job of getting those kids in the right positions and positioned to be successful. And again, Colonial League is a good league every single year, and it seems to have the same, top 4 or 5. But Palmerton could be probably considered a little bit of a surprise just based on lack of experience coming back. Wilson's also in the team. I know we don't talk about because they're so far down the line, but they've had a couple of winless seasons in the last few years, and now they're at I don't know if they're 3. They went to 3-3 right now, maybe even 4. I think 3-3, but they're going to be in the AAA playoff picture, maybe as a 7 or 8 seed, but they haven't touched playoffs for probably about 6-7 years now. So they're a team that's been a nice little surprise for people.
Coach, any surprises, in the league or the district? Anybody catching your attention that you've seen so far?
Well, you mentioned Palmerton. I thought they were very competitive last year, and they had some studs that they lost. But seeing what Chris has done with those guys, I think they're surprising a lot of people right now. I think everyone kind of thought going into the year that Schuylkill Haven would be a runaway with AA.
Yeah.
And I think I see down the line that be a real good game. Not to get ahead of everything, but I see Palmer and Schuylkill Haven, which I think they played last year, second week. Maybe that was for the double championship. I see that possibly. Like I said, again, not getting ahead of myself. But I can see that possibly being a great matchup down the line, especially if both of them stay healthy. We mentioned before about Northern Lehigh. Joe's having struggles. A lot of times people forget how much success Joe's had at Northern Lehigh. He's done a great job there. Stevie Lushak and those guys were there back when I was coaching 11, 12 years ago. And I'm sure they're going to bounce back. I know they have a lot of young guys playing there. I know I took some losses last year, but like I said, that's a team that's always going to be tough to play, and they're going to bounce back. And you mentioned Wilson. I think back to Wilson when Coach Comp was there. He was my quarterback when I was up at Strasburg, and back then they were always in the mix. I think they played for a state title back when they won twice actually. So that's a program that's been down for a little bit in the last 4 or 5 years. It's bouncing back, and I think that's what you see with some smaller schools, some AAA schools. it's hard to be a Park, hard to be one of those teams that every year you expect it to be 10-0. And, every once in a while you're going to get a little drought where it's going to be, hey, we got to hold things together, buy our time, improve every week, and eventually we're going to be competitive again. And, that happens. Coach will tell you, hey, I've been around for a while. You have great years and great runs, and every once in a while you get a year when you may not have, the experience. So it's a matter of, staying strong, bouncing back, and, improving every week.
And you think about, maybe Northwestern that's kind of started off a little bit slow this year, but they've got some of those guys back into the program, played Saucon, obviously they came back a little bit there in the second half last week, but they picked up steam a little bit once these kids, Devin Ballinger, quarterback, Phil D'Angelo, kind of getting these guys back into the fold. They get Bangor this week. Certainly a team very capable, putting up a really good game. And then you think about, Pleasant Valley, which last year was averaging close to 45 points a game and doing it through the air and on the ground. And this year, maybe they lost some guys from that line. Mike Mitchell's gone, Justin Richardson's gone. Brandon Keys is hurt and he's out for the year. So Aiden McHugh's the guy who's in there now. But they have one win this year against Allen. Last week they played East Stroudsburg South tough. This week they host Deera. So again, certainly in the EPC, no pushovers, no gimmies. But we'll see if head coach Mark Bursick can kind of get these guys back on track to hopefully kind of finish the year strong, obviously in the tough division.
I know you guys got a lot of things to do this week. Big game coming up Friday. So before we get out of here, any last thoughts on the season and the big game Friday night against Tamaqua, Coach?
I'll tell you what. I'm excited. I'm excited for our kids. I'm excited for both of our kids, both of our teams, because anybody who's there on Friday night is going to see a great crowd. And in my opinion, it is what high school football is all about. When we go there, when they come here, our crowd travels well, their crowd travels well, and kids are going to get to experience, in my opinion, what high school football should be all about. And that's why it's the best sport in this area, and that's why hopefully it will continue to be the best sport in this area, no matter what. The people in our community support the kids, and that's what it's all about. It's going to be a great night Friday night.
I agree with Coach. It's great. As a Tamaqua, we always travels well. Lehighton travels well. Sometimes you get these teams from out of the area that you're like, you think at least the parents would show up. Yeah. But like I said, it'll be a great atmosphere. And like Coach said, he played college football. I played college football. One thing you never forget is, playing your high school years, with friends that you have for life, and nights like, this upcoming Friday night.
Absolutely.
I guess that's all we have. I want to give a big thanks to Lehighton head coach Tom McCarroll and Tamaqua head coach Sam Bonner. I appreciate you guys. We bug you every week more than once, and we definitely appreciate everything you guys give to us. So thanks a lot for coming down, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
And Thursday we'll have tomorrow. Wow, I don't even know what day of the week it is. Every day I wake up. It's seriously, it's a blur. So tomorrow's paper, we'll have all of our football previews, game of the week story. I wonder which one that is. This one. And we'll have a player of the week story. Last week it was Jim Thorpe's Justin St. Hill. We have an overtime column by Rod Heckman and Emmett McCall and anything else.
All of our stats. Interesting stuff that, I think we talked about this before with Rod and Emmett and those guys. They put a lot of time into this, and they, kind of come up with something that really is pretty unique every week. So definitely something to look forward to.
And we're definitely pushing some video stuff after the games, get a quick video of some of the athletes. And I know Nick Briner's got a lot of time, and, we've got some of the Lehighton kids, and, it seems to be working out so far. So we'll see you guys next week, and enjoy this week of high school football.
Thanks.
Good job.
It was good. That was fun.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.